We're in the South Carolina Botanical Gardens at Clemson University. This is a unit of Clemson Extension, and I'm with Patrick McMillan, the director of the garden, and we are in the
Rich Cove Forest, right along the Natural Heritage Garden Trail.
I thought we were in heaven.
It seems like it this time of year, it really does.
Because I'm looking around and I'm just going to get you, I'm going to pick your brain. I'm so excited. Sure. This beautiful, beautiful blue and that gorgeous foliage. What have we got here?
Well, that's Mertensia virginica. That's Virginia bluebells. And you know, this one's been blooming for about 3 or 4 weeks, but right over there is one that's just fresh. And you can see why it's so beloved of a plant. I mean, comes out, starts pink, comes out to that beautiful, beautiful, vibrant blue. And you know, it's one of the species that we find only growing where we have real high pH soil here in the South. And so in this habitat, this Rich Cove Forest, the high pH soil that's caused here, it causes that.
So these
allows that to grow.
These little kind of lumpy looking rocks, limestone, have caused the pH to go up.
That's right.
And that has allowed us to have the variety of these plants that can start over every year from seed. In a lot of cases, although some I guess are perennial, herbaceously perennial.
Most of these are perennial, but you know what they have done here is we've created a habitat rather than just planting them in a garden. And so because the habitat's right, they spread. So we started with one bluebell, we've got tons of them here.
And you know, a lot of people overlook these little things that look like grasses.
Isn't that great?
And I'm guessing this is a carex of some sort.
It is. This, they unfortunately don't have common names, a lot of them. So this is Carex blanda. This one here, this beautiful fountainy thing, is Carex jamesii, which is called James's sedge, a real specialist in South Carolina just on high pH.
And you know, if we were doing a formal garden, we'd say changing textures is important. And nature changes texture.
Absolutely.
She did it, we learned from her.
I mean, these things are actually becoming really popular in even design, you know, formal landscapes. But imagine, what would this be if it wasn't tied together with that natural texture and change? It wouldn't look like what you see when you go out into the mountains with it.
This, I guess it's a phlox, and look at the color though. Look at that red kind of center. Isn't that fun?
Yeah, the phlox are beautiful here. They're this is a woodland phlox, but you know, one of the things we try to do here in this garden is we try to select plants to put into our mountain habitat that'll actually tolerate the climate here in South Carolina. So you know, woodland phlox, Phlox divaricata, this plant is extremely popular in the trade. I mean, you see it all the time.
All over the place.
Every garden
and for good reason. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful, but nobody has this form of it, you know, because this form is actually selected from seed that we brought back from the panhandle of Florida. And this is grown from an ecotype, we call it, from the panhandle. It tolerates heat, it tolerates all of the nastiness of the summer here.
Trillium is so much fun, and this one has a fly sitting on top of him. I don't know if that's important or not.
That's what pollinates it,
What a funny color for those petals to be.
Right, yeah, this is actually a plant that's called Trillium luteum, which is yellow trillium.
Yes.
And this is an odd form that has a kind of a little bit of color at the base that isn't yellow. And it's a selection that a friend of mine in North Carolina grew from I think Alabama is where that one's from, so it came quite a distance, but not your typical.
And then we always have to have layers, and here's a wonderful layer of one of our wonderful
flowers.
Our deciduous azaleas, and the fragrance of those.
Oh, I know. Yeah, and this one doesn't have too many flowers on it, but as you look down the trail, there's so many of these.
Well, and that light, airy aspect is just part of its beauty.
Some of them are covered this year too.
And then you know, people talk about fiddleheads, and here we've got some wonderful examples. Is the fern unfurls, like the top of a violin, right?
That's right, and this is my favorite fern for South Carolina, for growing in South Carolina. There's no tougher fern, there's none that perform as well as this one for a large fern. It's called log fern, Dryopteris celsa, C-E-L-S-A, log fern. Native down to your neck of the woods, down Sumter, Kershaw County, Darlington County we find it. A little bit up here in the upstate, one site in Pickens County, but really vigorous, wonderful plant, tolerates summer heat, doesn't die immediately if you don't have
And again, we talked about the diversity of trillium. Look at that funky looking fella. He looks like a spaceship landed on top of him.
Incredible. Great common name. It's called a propeller trillium. Because if you
I can see why.
You look at these petals have been reflexed backwards like this and twisted, just like the propeller on an airplane. And what looks like petals here in the center, those are actually stamens.
Wow. Now that is a funky looking thing kind of hanging upside down.
Right, that's a shooting star.
Shooting star.
Right, and we see those in places like Stevens Creek down in McCormick County. And the shooting star, great plant because, you know, talk about how form fits function. Well, on these white flowers here,
yes,
the dangling anthers that come out below the flowers, below the petals that have been bent backwards, are made to perfectly fit a female bumblebee coming in there and landing, or carpenter bee coming in there and landing on there, and then vibrating at about 300
and
rotations
the pollen
a
just
second.
goes, whoa.
Right, pollen shoots out the tubes. It's called buzz pollination.
Buzz
I just
pollination.
love that.
Isn't that just fabulous? Yeah. Now, what fun, and isn't it good that our knees are still working, because
Yeah.
I'm going to have to lean over
Yep.
to find
The flower on the
on the
Mayapple.
Mayapple.
Yeah.
You know, it does you good to stay in shape. Otherwise, you'd miss so much of nature, because a lot of it is hidden. What's the purpose of some of these flowers like this that are hanging underneath and on some of the nodding trillium and things?
Well, you know, we're not exactly sure why, but you know, we got ideas why they would nod. Out here in these forests, you know, things fall, and and rain falls, right? And so you might actually have your own little built-in umbrella there to protect your flowers. And in the case of a lot of these plants, their flowers may stink or may smell like something that would attract flies, or each one has a different pollinator. But maybe having them below a little umbrella can protect them from the elements, from things like rain or sticks falling out of the tree. One of my favorite sections of this garden is right up here, because there's a couple of again, I love trillium. They're one of my favorite groups of plants. And we've got what we call our local endemic. Our local specialist is the faded trillium with these
beautiful
light yellow flowers. It's the most common trillium we have up here in the garden, and it's actually native to the property as well. And that's a bunch right there that actually just has always grown here. And that is a local endemic. And the great part about this, if you get over there to it, it smells like cloves. That flower smells just like a clove.
Stick my nose in it. It certainly does.
Isn't that amazing?
A good reason again to bend over.
Yeah, it sure is. And the diversity is just incredible. Between that and, I mean, look at this one. How different does this look?
Another trillium.
Yeah, another trillium.
Boy,
and
he's
this one's lancifolium.
Whoa, yeah, very attenuated, isn't it?
Very narrow. So the trillium are my favorite. There's no question. It's why I fell in love with botany. You know, my grandmother used to pay me a quarter to go find them in the woods.
And this one here.
I know you love that one, don't you? That's the windflower.
Yeah, isn't that lovely?
Phylloxera.
One thing is, we don't have a lot of name tags out here, and you told me you did that on purpose. So give me a reason why.
Well, I'll give you two reasons why.
Okay.
There's over 1,000 species of plants just right here.
It wouldn't be fun to have those many signs.
It'd look like a graveyard if we had that many signs in there. But secondly, the idea behind the Natural Heritage Garden Trail is really to put people into the environment. And when you walk down the trail in the mountains in the Great Smokies or up in Jocassee Gorges, there's not a sign on everything. So we have a kiosk up at the front, has pictures of the showy things that are in bloom and what their names are. Simple as come in and take a picture with your phone if you want to and walk down the trail, or you can actually get a guide to the spring flying wildflowers if you just stop in over at the visitor center and get that. Or my favorite thing to tell people to do is bring their copy of Portia and Rainer, the wildflowers of South Carolina.
I've got mine in the car.
And walk the trail the same way you would in the mountains. When you see something, figure it out. It's this much richer learning experience.
And then you get to find out all the wonderful things that are associated with
right.
it. And as you said earlier, it's all about connections.
It's all about connection.
Patrick, we're so glad we connected with you today.
Oh, I'm so happy you came. You hit it just right. It's beautiful today.
And there's a lot more to be seen here, and we're going to make this a special place for making you go to visit frequently.